ADHD is a very complex disorder and one that is not well understood, although highly researched. And I know there's a lot of concern among parents and professionals as to the overdiagnosis of this disability. The Arrowsmith program takes a unique view and analysis of ADHD. There are several factors that the Arrowsmith program looks at to determine whether or not the child truly has a neurochemical attention disorder. By that I mean that medication is probably the best solution to improve executive functioning or planning or organizing for that child. What we've noticed, there are a lot of students who don't actually need to have medication, that the reason that they're struggling with attention or organizing and planning is that they have a multitude of cognitive dysfunctions, or what we call cognitive load is really high. Meaning of the 19 learning dysfunctions the Arrowsmith program analyzes, the child may have 8 or 10 of them. And therefore, there's a lot of issues they're faced with when they're trying to function in a classroom. For example, if they have trouble listening to information and instructions from a teacher, you're going to look like you have ADHD. If you have trouble taking notes from the board, you might get really tired and stare out the window and look at birds instead of taking notes from the board. So because ADHD is a behavioral symptom diagnosis, cognitive dysfunctions may show up as ADHD, but in fact, it's not a neurochemical issue, it's a cognitive functioning issue. The other problem for a diagnosis is emotion. Students who have severe anxieties or depression could have this heightened amygdala response to their surroundings and their thoughts, and therefore struggle with attention and focus. So certainly children with emotional issues have to be carefully monitored as to determine whether or not they truly have ADHD. And one of the factors, if you have a learning disability, you often have anxiety. Sometimes you have depression. You might be feeling low, and therefore your attention span is poor, your prefrontal functioning is poor, and you may appear to have an attention disorder when in fact it's more emotional based. So what do we do with students who have attention-like issues? We look at certain areas of the prefrontal lobe in particular. We look at the left prefrontal and the right prefrontal. The left prefrontal is responsible for language and language organization and planning, and the right prefrontal is responsible for visual organization and planning. So these cognitive exercises will target the left and right prefrontal lobe. What we found is as these areas improve neurologically, children who previously were on medication can come off medication. It might take a year, it might take 2 years, but roughly 60 to 70% of our students can come off the medication because it truly wasn't a neurochemical disability, it was a neurocognitive or cognitive functioning weakness. So it's exciting that Arrowsmith program can add and contribute to the field of ADHD and hopefully provide more promising interventions for those students.